And welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves, presented by JJC Athletics. I'm Damian Dennis, and this week, a little bit of a different feel here. On Zoom with Wolves wrestling coach Gary Woods. Gary, how you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Been a
It's
great season.
yeah, it's kind of spring break. I mean, for us, maybe not as much of a spring break, but we're not on campus, hence the Zoom call.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I can't complain too much. I'm down here in North Carolina, down here in Calabash, Golf Country, USA. So
Nice. And I'm in my new house in Homewood, Illinois. Hence the empty shelves behind me. It's going to be really interesting. And Gary, you already know this, but normally when I do these shows, I usually have the coach and the student athlete in the same room. We're going to have Paulie on here in a little bit, Paulie Kadlec. We're gonna have him on after I speak with you, but I actually spoke to him like a week ago by the time we're recording this. So, and then that's on campus, so it's a little wonky here and there,
yep, it sure is.
but but gives it some flavor, I guess.
Yeah, wrestling team, we always do things a little bit different, So we're in a different building, we're in a different area. Like
Yeah.
we like to
So,
do our things our own little way.
so since this is the first time I've had you on the show, Gary, and been able to feature wrestling since I've been here. Can you just tell me, well, and we're going to talk a lot about Paulie because he had a lot of great accomplishments. He finished the season strong for the Wolves for himself. But I kind of want to backtrack a bit and just ask you a little bit about wrestling season as a whole, and just kind of how the team grew throughout the year and where you see this program going as you enter the next season.
Yeah, so when I came in October 3rd onto campus, which is actually 3 days into season. So our kids didn't have any off-season real training because there was no one over there to watch them in the wrestling room because we're not in the event center. It made it a little challenging on those kids to prepare for season. So starting behind the eight ball right off the bat, trying to add women's wrestling with no recruiting class. I had to reach deep and figure out a few different ideas on how to even find us some women wrestlers. Like, um, I am in charge of both men and women's wrestling program, which is kind of a odd thing to know about. Like, there's only a handful of us that actually do that at the college level. And for me to step in as a first year college coach kind of makes it a little different. You want to go into growing. Look, I had a great mentor slash connection inside the area of Joliet, which is Liz Short, who's a two-time world medalist, female. So I reached out to her. She had the largest women's team in the country this year out of Joliet Township. So with her connections, she kind of put me in touch with a few of her former wrestlers, and we reached out to some other high school coaches and found a few to scrap together to try to get this thing going. We grew quick and we shrunk quick. Unfortunately, I had this thing over Christmas break that I had to do with the family before I took the job. So we took a little bit longer of a break than I wanted to. And I think we lost a little bit of interest. Um, Duly noted. That's why we don't take long breaks. I've never done that before at the high school level, but I had to do it this year due to some family members' health and things like that. With the men's team, look, we came on campus and I was expecting to have probably 10 to 15 kids, and when I walked out there was two kids standing in front of me. Our academic All-American Lucas Metz from Indiana, and then we had Franco Gonzalez, who was our heavyweight this year. And they were like, "Coach, we're ready to go." And I'm like, "Wait, where's the team?" "Franco, you told me you're the captain. Where's the team? What captain are you?" And he's like, "Well, coach, we got to rebuild." And I was like, "Okay, Franco, we'll see what we can do, And we got some other kids out there. We grew fairly quickly, and we dropped again, just like the women's. We dropped fairly quickly. The commitment level at the college level is way different than the high school level. So we finished with 5 kids on the wrestling mat. For the men's side, we finished with 3 on the girls' side. So for a first year in a rebuild, I think we did really well.
Yeah. What's it like coming into a program that needs just that much of a rebuild day one. Because like you said, you didn't have an off season, you didn't have a preseason camp. You came in 3 days into the season and were just like, "Hey, I got to rebuild this thing."
Yeah, so like I looked at it as this is year point five. So it's not a real full year. We got a half a year. We got the season part. You know, I wasn't willing to even consider shutting it down or anything of that nature. It's just, hey, this is what we've got. This is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna try to make it work this year. Get a new recruit class in here, hopefully to build around some of our pieces that are coming back, and make the best of it. It made it challenging. There's no doubt about it. It's a full time job, and we don't get paid full time at JJC. But I convinced my wife to let me, who lives in Virginia, to move out here to Illinois and rebuild this program. And I'm excited about what's coming in the future for it.
Yeah. What challenges do you face between both the men's side and the women's side? Because as you mentioned, there's not a lot of programs on the women's side of things, so you're kind of an outlier in that regard. So and then you're the coach of both programs, so kind of like, are there similar philosophies you use, but then things you have to do differently both for both sides?
Of course, of course. Anytime you're dealing with men or women, you have to handle things a little bit differently. They're both athletes. They're both still wrestling, but the scoring mechanisms is very different. Women's wrestle freestyle, men still wrestle folk style. So when we get these women in here for the freestyle, most of them haven't ever wrestled freestyle before. So that's the international style. So I have to split practice, but we do it at the same time. So I would be running one practice, I'd show a drill, and then I'd let them start drilling and I'd go show the other drill. And then I kind of work my way around the entire room. Luckily enough that our room was small enough that I could do that by myself, as I was the only coach until about, a month and a half ago. We got an assistant coach that's great. His name's Connor Merchant. He's amazing. He's a two-time Michigan State qualifier at 215, so he's a bigger guy to help push our bigger guys like Paulie and Franco around a little bit.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit about Paulie. We may as well jump into that now because he finished the year really strong for you. He placed seventh at the NJCAA National Tournament, named an All-American for the year. Before that, he won district championship. He won the Harper Open. He's been kind of the rock for this program, or at least on the men's side throughout the year. What does it mean to just kind of have someone like Paulie kind of being able to represent both you as a coach and then the Wolves as a whole?
Yeah, so I mean, look, Paulie's been great. He came out and him and I had our little hiccups. We had our little battles. As a new coach to the area, he comes out of Lockport High School, which is very known for wrestling. His drill partner is top nationally ranked wrestler in the country. So it was very interesting. He wanted to kind of do things his way, and I kind of let him do it his way to start the season off. We went to that first tournament, and actually we lost to the Harper kid. Kind of in that second round, we got pinned to knock us out of the tournament. So he went 2-2, and on the ride home, he was like, "Coach, I'm in. I got you. I believe in you. I think what you're doing is right." And we just slowly bridged the gap, and by the end, when we came back in January, he was lights out. Anything I said or needed him to do, he was doing it. He was doing extra workouts. The kids were seeing that Paulie was putting in the extra work and that the extra work was paying off. So it kind of helped trigger them to get them in shape a little bit more and start doing a little bit more outside of just our own practice room.
Now, when I spoke to Paulie last week, he had mentioned the Harper loss specifically because he said it kind of lit a fire under him, and he made it a point to tell you he was going to beat that same kid again. And I think he said 2, 3 more times he had a chance to, and he swept the rest of the year.
Yeah, yeah. So, at the Harper Open, we thought that's who we were going to face in the finals. And, you know, it didn't happen. He lost in the quarters, the semifinals. I can't remember. I think it might have been the quarters. The other kid, the Harper kid, Conan. And so he was really bummed that he didn't get to wrestle that match, but he got to wrestle another top level kid that he had beaten in high school that had continued wrestling and just hadn't panned out the way he should have at the moment. We got that win, and he was like, "Coach, I'm beating I'm beating him as soon as I get our hands on him. It's going to happen. I promise. And I'm like, all right, well, you got to keep working until we get to him. He thinks he's got it. He's going to have the easy way through the bracket. There's another kid in the bracket from Triton that, we were concerned about a little bit, just wanting to see him. We've got to watch him wrestle a little bit, but we had never gotten our hands on him. And the kid had beaten all the nationally ranked kids. So, it was like, hey, we're probably going to see Conan in the semifinals at districts. Let's start preparing. What are we going to do? How are we going to change our offense so that we don't get caught again?
Yeah. And continuing on Paulie, when I spoke to him, he said that you kind of got him back into wrestling because I think he said he took a year off. Maybe it wasn't that long, but he said he went through a family tragedy, and it just kind of he stepped away from the sport until you showed up. Can you tell me a little bit about just bringing him to JJC to compete for you?
Yeah. So look, Paulie hadn't wrestled for almost 2 years when we got him started this year. He showed up in the wrestling room my first day on campus. He was already enrolled at the school, so I didn't have to convince him to come to JJC. He was already there. But we had to make it a little more interesting. And he was like, yeah, I don't know yet, coach. Like, I've been away from it a little while. And I just told him, hey, this is what I think, you're meant to be here. You're meant to be the rock. You're meant to get this program back started and to be our highlight to show off and start chasing this Division III national title. And I was like, it's not going to come easy. Do I think you're an All-American right now? I haven't seen you on the mat. I know what you had done in high school, and I think you've got the ability to be that, but it's a matter of, are you willing to put the work in again to get there? And I said, he wasn't the highlight of the team at Lockport High School. He was another guy, really good talent. But again, his drill partner's nationally ranked in Division I. Like that's who the highlight of that program was. And I was like, you could be that guy for us here at JJC if you'll commit and listen. I know I can coach at this level. You just got to listen. And like I said, it was a little roughish at first. Me and Paulie, like that's my boy, but he'll tell you like it was interesting at the beginning. He thought he was going to be able to do it his way and just dominate, and he learned very quickly. The Harper kid humbled him to allow me to be able to coach him, and then he started making the changes. And wow, it was fun.
Nice. Uh, how did you find Paulie? He was already enrolled at JJC. Like did you just meet him through somebody else and start recruiting him?
So it's actually funny. So I started going through our enrollee listing, and then I started on Track Wrestling and started looking at prior results at the state tournament. Joliet's known for wrestling. We're the heart of wrestling in the country. At the Division I level, I mean, the Big Ten's had numerous of Illinois boys in the finals. So, I came here because of that. So I was like, there's got to be some talent inside this school somewhere. I stumbled upon the Lockport's Paulie Kadlec, and I was like, let me go get this kid. And then I started talking to Franco, and Franco got him to come inside the room, and we started talking. It took us about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before he even showed up to practice. I mean, that first tournament when we lost the Harper kid, he'd only been on the mat 3 days, after a year and a half layoff. So it was interesting. And, like him and I, like I said, we've built a big gap. Him and I talk almost daily now. I send him text messages and stuff like that. He's really come a long way.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the NJCAA Division III National Championship. You and I have talked before. It's not technically a D3 championship, but you kind of explained to me his seventh place finish at the national tournament was the highest for a D3 wrestler. In your words, you were like, he's the unofficial, D3 champion. Can you just speak a little bit on that and kind of maybe sum it up better than I just did?
Yeah. So at the NJCAA level, we've actually, for team race wise, we've split it. It was the first time this year. So we wrestle we're Division III, so we're non-scholarship, non-housing, and we wrestle against the scholarship and housing schools for the NJCAA national title. But at the end of the day, at the state tournament, you get those individual points. We all collect them the same way, but at the end, we split. So you have scholarship, which is your Division I, Division II schools. They have the top three national titles as a team, and then we split off the Division III schools, which are non-scholarshiped schools, break off, and we have those top three. So like I think it was Rochester won for Division III, but they were 11th overall. And then I think Harper ended up third, and they were for Division III, and they were like 20th or something like that. And then we finished out eighth in Division III, but overall we finished 33rd in the NJCAA. With over 50 plus schools there, 60 to 70 schools represented in NJCAA, something like that. So we did really well, but individually they don't get split. And those resources are drastically different when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to the nutritional portion, the weightlifting coaches, everything like that. The scholarship kids, I believe, definitely have an advantage over some of us Division III schools at the moment. But if we split it, it was Harper's kid versus our kid for the Division III national title, and it actually came down to the blood round that we had to beat that kid to get the All-American status.
Yeah.
And we did it. So technically, in my mind, he's the Division III national champ because we don't represent or recognize an individual national champ from the Division III level, but we do as a team.
Yeah. I know you probably can't talk too much about recruiting, but I want to ask, Paulie's success, kind of, and the team's success overall. How are you kind of capitalizing on that when it comes to the recruiting process? Because again, we've spoken a lot about Paulie. 1-2 years away, comes back and goes on after a devastating loss in the beginning of the year, goes on to kind of just excel from then. You know, that's got to be a talking point when it comes to the recruiting process.
Oh, for sure, for sure. We actually just had a kid sign for the next weight class up for Paulie at 184, Haiku Watson, Castro, sorry. And he's been out 2 years as well. He went to school 1 year, just didn't want to wrestle anymore. And now he's like, you know what? Paulie's done it. I wrestled Paulie back in the day. I think me and Paulie could make a good drill partners and come out there. So I think we've got a good 184 pounder looking to come in next year. Like I said, he is signed, but that is a major talking point. We're looking at a kid out of Virginia right now. I'm not going to I can't tell you names or anything because we're not signed yet, but he hadn't wrestled in 2 or 3 years. He was a 106 pounder, and now he's moved up to 125, 133. He's like, Coach, I'm ready. I can come to college and compete. And he's seen Paulie. We put him on Instagram, let him know about Paulie Kadlec. And it's definitely helped on the men's side drastically. Everybody wants to be that drill partner of an All-American. So Paulie knows the team runs around Paulie right now. He's our star. He's who we're pushing. We're trying to get him the best drill partners possible, and we're trying to find kids to beat him. Like I told Paulie, there's no guarantee next year that you're even our starter. If I can have it my way, I'm beating you.
Yeah.
And he loves that challenge. I always give him a hard time. Oh man, I'm talking to this kid. He's gonna come kick your butt next year. He's taking your spot. He's saying, move on out the way. And Paulie, you got to talk with Paulie, so you understand Paulie a little bit. Paulie's like, okay, coach, bring him on. Let's go. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah. He's a smart and he's a passionate young guy. So I bet he's gonna rise to your challenges.
Yes, so far every person I've brought in to try to push him or whatnot, he's done away with us.
All right. Well, Gary, I appreciate the time here for Coffee with the Wolves. I don't know how long it's gone because usually I have a running ticker, but because we're doing it on Zoom. but it's fine. There's no time limit. But next up, we're gonna play that interview I had with Paulie. I've told you I've made fun of myself a little bit over it. I feel like I was a little bit rough in that conversation with Paulie. So yeah, prepare for that. But yeah, Coach, I appreciate the time, and I can't wait for next season and to have you on a whole bunch more. It's a shame it took until after the season to get you guys on here.
Well, like with being able to have the assistant coach to help a little bit with Coach Merchant and things getting hatched down where I'll have an apartment right next to the school, I think we'll definitely be able to make some more time and second year, or as my assistant coach would say, year 1.5. We've got things batted down, so we should definitely be able to get
Yeah.
on to talk a few more times.
Yeah, it's crazy because I started almost exactly a month after you. So, like, you were already in the season. I came in like the day after the basketball seasons began. Like, I was kind of in the same boat, only probably less responsibility. I don't have to recruit kids and teach them and coach them up, but
Yeah, I actually think they interviewed you the day that I was brought in for the morning. I think they interviewed you that afternoon is what I think. They had a few
probably,
interviews set up.
probably. Well, yeah, coach, I appreciate the time. And yeah, up next, we got Paulie.
And welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves. I am honored to be joined by Paulie Kadlec, our seventh place NGCAA wrestling. I guess guy like you're the guy.
Yep,
How you doing, Paulie?
great. Had a great tournament. Not what we expected, but had a run. Some key points we'll make up next year, and we'll make the run to nationals next year and claim that title.
Right. Now, this is the first time we've been able to feature wrestling here on this podcast. Uh, and I just kind of want to go through, your season, your background a little bit because, we're meeting up here and highlighting wrestling at the end of the, hell, after the end of the year,
Yep.
like it's, so we're kind of playing catch up here. So just tell me a little bit about the wrestling season up to this point and really kind of learning under Coach Gary Woods.
So Gary Woods, awesome coach. Like I literally bought into his system. So when I first started, tried like I dove into diversity right away. He became the coach probably in October. I was in and out of October, so I really didn't wrestle. Um, it took me a year and 8 months to actually get on the mat. And then my first tournament, I think, was the Yellow Jacket tournament. And I was full time job. I was fully working out, so I really wasn't in the wrestling room. And then he really just locked me in over the course of the couple weeks and just grew on his system and believed in it. And I could give all praise to him because, man, he helped me out a lot.
Yeah, and what a journey it's been because as I kind of fumbled through our introduction there, but just as I don't know when this episode's coming out at this point, it's going to be sometime here soon, but this past weekend at the time of recording, you just finished the NCJA or NJCAA. I'm getting all confused at the moment, but you just finished at the national tournament,
Yep.
finished in seventh place. So that journey from
Yep.
not being on the mat to then such a strong finish. And according to Gary, talked to him beforehand. He said you're basically at the top of Division Three.
Yep. I would say like at the start of the year, so I versed the Harper kid, which he was at the top, and he beat me at the beginning of the year with a pin, which is a major thing in wrestling
Yeah.
compared to points or tech fall or anything like that. And I would say the last 3 weeks, I upsetted him twice, and I couldn't be more happier than that.
Kind of a full circle moment for you.
Yep.
At one point, you won the Harper Open too.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Was that your first kind of big win of the year?
So that was an eye opener. I really just dove into things. I knew I could win a tournament. I knew I needed to win a tournament before entering districts, and I would say my first match went pretty good there. Second match, it was a little rocky. Wasn't getting to my offense as much. Uh, Third match, I versed an NIU backup, and I beat him. And then I knew I could win the tournament after that.
Great. And then you went on, district champion.
Yep.
How does that feel too?
Oh, that was a great feeling. That was I just love the sport of wrestling. That finals match really stuck with me, and I just loved the heat of the moment.
How long have you been wrestling? How long has this been a passion for you?
I've been wrestling since I was 5. I've come from great programs. I came from Lockport High School, which is like a dynasty. They're a solid wrestling team in Illinois, and I would say I just started wrestling at a young age, and I loved the sport, and I've had a couple injuries here and there, but that's every wrestler if you're on the grind.
How do you come back from those injuries? I don't know if that was something you dealt with throughout your season here, but in the past, how do you come back from those injuries, especially with such a physical sport like wrestling?
Honestly, I would just say healing, taking it seriously. So icing your body, doing all the recovery you need to be prepared for whatever you're preparing yourself for, which is I was preparing myself for either districts or the national tournament. And for the national tournament, I made sure to always ice, be as 100% as possible.
Can you walk us through kind of the tournament there, the national tournament? Tell us a little bit about your mindset, kind of entering, let's say, day one, and just how you built upon it throughout the weekend.
So my mindset's all year it's been AA, All American, All American, All American. And then right when I started beating kids, I started getting up on the board and stuff like that in the rankings, but the rankings don't matter at the end of the tournament. But honestly, my mindset going into it, I really thought I could win the national title. I believed in myself just as much as my teammates and my coaches believed in me. Um, just as much as my 100% my attitude was all locked in.
Yeah. And you mentioned something that I forgot in the introduction. All American too. What's that mean for you? Clearly, you just mentioned
Oh,
it.
it means a lot to me. I At the beginning of the year, like I said, I didn't wrestle for a year and 8 months, so that's a lot for a wrestler
Yeah.
not to even touch the mat. And what I would say, Gary Woods locked me in, and right when I got my eye on the prize, and I never looked back once.
When it comes to that time off, can you tell us a little bit about maybe why you had so much time off and just then coming back to the sport, because taking time away, for example, I quit football early and I tried to come back and then just I couldn't. Uh, you know, what was that kind of process like for you?
So my senior year, I have some unfortunate news to like tell, but my mother ended up dying
I'm sorry.
halfway into my senior season, and I was just in shambles. So I was a really good wrestler my senior year. I would say I was a decent wrestler. I stepped back. I stepped back from wrestling for a year because I just needed to get my mental straight focused, and I worked out. I was about probably 150 pounds last December, and then I put on about 40 pounds of muscle and just never stopped.
Uh,
Just
yeah.
never stopped working hard. I just love working out. I love wrestling. I love anything that's about fitness and health and protein powder, everything.
What's your diet like?
I would say my diet's strict, so I don't do no pop, no candy, no chips. I would say rice, oats, protein bars, cereal, noodles, things like that.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yep.
that's a lot of the stuff I eat. Only I'm older. I don't have the results to
Yep.
show it. uh, you know, what can you say about your team and your teammates? Over the course of the season. You know, it's a long road. You finally got to the end. You had other people there with you. Other wrestlers.
Yep.
Just tell me about the camaraderie with this team.
I would say when I first jumped in, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Just like any other person, you want to be close as possible to your team, and I would say our team's like family, and that's all I wanted. As long as I'm close with my teammates, um, and we have a little roster. It's like set of 5 kids, an assistant coach, a head coach, and that's it. And
Yeah.
those are us 5 guys, close as possible, close as can be. Shout out to Lucas, Franco, Oscar, um, Jake, all those guys. Those guys are my guys.
Yeah.
They believed in me. And I love them.
Now, where are you hoping to see the program grow from this point? You finished strong. Now it's time for everyone else to hopefully finish as strong
Yep.
next year.
Yep. So we're hoping to bring in some new kids next year, and I'm gonna work their tail off just as much as I'm gonna work my own tail off. I'm gonna lead the team. Um, we're gonna try and bring home a national championship in the Divisional 3 level and try and be the best Divisional 3 um, school.
Well, again, Paulie, All-American, 7th place
Yep.
finish at the national tournament, basically top of D3. Hell of a season for you, man.
Yep.
So, thank you for joining me.
And
for
then I
Coffee-
would like to
yeah.
like to praise God, and honestly, I wouldn't be here without him. So
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for joining me here for Coffee with the Wolves. Hopefully, we'll have you more on next year, maybe
of
throughout the
course.
season.
Yep, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, and to those watching or listening, thank you.